All right, we're going to try one more on this, and hopefully it's starting to make sense. We are going to just work through this one, make sure it's helpful and that you're able to do it, and then we'll review everything to make sure that it makes sense. Okay, so A, B, and C, I want to keep in my mind, A, B, and C, A, B, and C. I have a thought, but I'm going to hold that to the end, right? So I'm going to jump this in. A, all right, so A, coefficient of x squared term. Coefficient of x squared, nothing there, so it's a 1, because 1 times x squared is still x squared. Same thing here. We have x here, so B is 1, because there's no coefficient of x. Just kidding, there's a 1 there, it's just invisible. And then C is a negative 72. Now my A is already 1, so I'm going to leave it that way. I know we did A as 1 on all of these, but this would work still if A was not 1, because we're going to plug in our A values here. And this is a division problem. So, proportions happen. If A is 7, then A is 7, but we've just done ones with A equal to 1. All right, so I'm going to plug in. All right, where are my A's? My A's are next to my 4, so 1 is going to go there. 1 is going to go here. B, my B's are 1, so 1 and 1, so 1 and 1. And C is negative 72. Now, I would never do that normally as I'm going. I would say negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC over 2A. My 8th grade teacher made us memorize it. I don't remember the name. But what I do remember is that I had to memorize it, and I still remember it. Not 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 25 years, I don't know. Don't figure out how old I am. I'm old. Okay, anyways, so here it is. I'm going to copy that over here so that I can do the math. So we have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared, which is 1, minus 4 times negative 4 times 1, which is negative 1, times 72. All right, well, 72 times 4, well, 2 times 4 is 8, and that's 28, so it's going to be 288. So, but since it's a negative, and this is a negative, it's going to become plus 288. All over 2a, which is 2 times 1, which is 2. All right, so I'm going to combine what's under my parentheses because that can be done. Negative 1 plus or minus the root of 289 all over, sorry, I've been keeping my eye on helicopters, just lots of helicopters today. Well, there's 3 that flew by at one time, so I don't think it means anything. Divided by 2, okay. 289. Now, because I have done my multiplication grids a million times, because that's what math teachers do, the square root of 289 is 17. All right, so what this one is saying is negative 1 plus or minus 17 over 2. So now is the time to separate it into the 2 problems. We have negative 1 plus 17 over 2 and negative 1 minus 17 over 2. Negative 1 plus 17 is 16, divided by 2 is 8. And negative 1 minus 17 is negative 18, divided by 2 is negative 9. All right, so those are our x values, and I keep forgetting to write x equals, and I'm sorry, but those are our x values. Now, you're looking at that, you're like, oh, they're just 2 whole numbers. That's easy. I wonder, sorry, hitting my microphone. I wonder if I could have done this easier before. Well, let me see. All right, oops, here it is right here. I'm going to write this in a different color, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to also carve it out here. Okay, now that's ugly. We'll do like that. Okay, so I'm doing over here. So I'm going to say x squared plus x minus 72. And I'm going to zoom in over there so we can really just focus in on this part and not that part. All right, and that equals 0. All right, so normally we're going back to in a review of how to factor, right? I have my x times x is x squared. Now I need to figure out what's going to multiply to negative 72, what's going to add to the coefficient, or b, which is 1, right? Well, if I list my factors of 72, it's 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24. 4 goes in. Oh gosh, we're going to have 4, that's 1, and 32 is 18. 5, no. 6 does, right? 6 times 12. 7 does not. And then 8 and 9, right? And we know since this is a negative 72, this is plus and minus, this is minus and plus, because they have to match, right? They have to be opposites. Or sometimes when I see that negative up here, instead of saying which add to 1, I'll ask myself the question, how far, let me start that again. Which factors are 1 apart? That one is, right? They're 1 apart. So we'll have a 9 and an 8. We wanted to add to positive 1, so that means we want 8 to be negative and 9 to be positive, because 9 minus 8 is 1. And then those come up here. It would be x plus 9 or x minus 8, right? And when we solve them, we want to know when does this equal to 0. So x plus 9 equals 0 when x is negative 9. X minus 8 equals 0 when x is 8. So x is negative 9, x is 8. Gonna scroll out for a second. Oh, look at that. X equals 8, x equals negative 9. So the quadratic formula works the exact same way as factoring. Not the exact same way, but gets the exact same results as factoring. You would do the quadratic formula, maybe not in this one. Maybe you'd be able to do it faster. It was a lot neater. It was a lot quicker. I didn't have to memorize the quadratic formula for the green, for the factoring. But if some kids just like to know how to do it, just want to get to the work, quadratic formula will be there for you. So either way you do it, you will get the right answer. But try this quadratic formula, because you will not always get integer answers. And sometimes they're even nice, clean, and sometimes it's like my last one that I know the video you may have seen on this one, right? My answers were -2 and -2.5. Not terrible numbers, but I wouldn't have been able to factor that way. So always do what the best way to get the answer is, and the best way changes from problem to problem. So keep practicing, keep watching. See you soon.